Secretary Edwards, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm not going to rattle off your official bio, except to say that when we were originally talking about this panel, this conversation, we ran out of characters on the sheet because it was going to be a conversation with Maryland's highest ranking social worker. Which is it's absolutely true. You are humble, you are modest. You're not going to say it, but I will. There's only one cabinet secretary who is a MSW, and there's no member of House and Senate. The Speaker of the House isn't, the governor isn't, the Senate President isn't. None of the statewide elected officials are. So I feel very comfortable in saying that you are Maryland's highest ranked social worker. So appreciate you in all your chaos, kind of taking the time. And I was kind of reading up in prep for this conversation, and your office puts out a report on appointments, right? And the work that you do. Secretary Edwards, for those who are unaware, is the Secretary of Appointments for the state. And so she is responsible for handling every appointment that the governor makes. The governor has about, correct me if I'm wrong, 6,000 positions throughout the state that the governor gets to appoint. And there is one person and her team responsible for making sure that happens. And not only is this happening, these numbers just strike me. You've been in this job a little over a year. You've appointed close to 2,000 folks to a variety of positions, which is a 60% increase when compared to the former governor and appointments team to this time of year, which is by itself extraordinary. But what really grabbed me is your focus on diversity and making the boards and commissions and the governor's cabinet and the governor's appointments look more like the state. I have to say, and you and I've discussed this, I've had the honor of going through the appointments process with you, and your reputation absolutely held up. The responsiveness of your office, the thoroughness of your office, the warmth of your office. I've never seen a Secretary of Appointments handle making sure that appointees are comfortable before confirmation, before executive nominations, the way you do. So I say this all as a lead up to say, welcome. Thank you for taking the time. And Secretary Edwards, if you don't mind just very briefly kind of introducing yourself.
So first of all, can you go home with me for tell my mom what you just said? Because I'm blushing, Jake, for a lot of reasons. Number one, I'm a first-gen college graduate, and I never, ever could have imagined that someone would say the things that you just said.
All true.
It's just, like, how did it happen, right? And so thank you for just acknowledging my reputation of trying to get things done, my commitment to making people feel cared for, which is what social workers do, and the role that I am playing in terms of representing our profession and what's possible when you become a social worker. Because when I did this, 30 years ago, and said that, being a social worker was going to propel me forward in a way that I could serve my community in a hugely impactful way. A lot of people were like, how do social workers do that? Because they only saw us, at least back then, as people who were doing kind of case management in very, very specific roles. And I think, Jake, you're also one of those kind of trailblazers in the profession who is helping people to understand the value of what we bring to the table and how we can be power brokers and movers and shakers. And most importantly, how we as social workers have the capacity, the intellectual capabilities, and the professional know-how to bring about systemic change. And that's what also social workers want. And it's great to be kind of side by side with you, because you're doing it in your work, I'm doing it in my work, and there are a lot of us kind of at this policy level who are trying to support our colleagues who are doing it one person at a time. Like, so we got the ground game on this, the one person at a time, and then we got the macro kind of warriors who are trying to just make this work easier for folks on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much for acknowledging where I am in the game. It makes me feel really good, Jake.
Well, and I'm sure you're not looking at the chats, but you've got a pretty nice fan club in there, including some sorors who are very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
Let me start off with a bit of a difficult question, or might not be difficult, but you've got this extraordinary resume. Bachelor's of Social Work, Master's of Social Work, JD. You've been the CEO for a major school system, Chief of Staff more than a couple of times, and now you're a Cabinet Secretary. You've received accolades everywhere you go, throughout the state, throughout the region. You've built this reputation as a fierce advocate, a skilled tactician, and a trusted advisor, including in our governor's inner circle. So here's my question for you. What are you doing in public service instead of cashing out? Why are you here instead of doing what so many people have done, which is built up a resume and then gone to the private sector and just made money?
So, okay, let's not dog the people in private sector.
I'm not dogging private sector, but you're driven. There is something inside of you that's pushing you to the public service, and I want to better understand what that is.
Yeah. So listen, I think about this two ways. And so first of all, I actually hope that at some point there are more social workers driving the private sector, because they need us too, right? Business and corporate America needs to do a better job of being value-centric, caring for people, doing what you can in the corporate sector to drive systemic change. So I think all of us who get an opportunity to be in those places and spaces, that's a good thing, because I think that social workers need to be everywhere. We are the gatekeepers of goodness, as far as I'm concerned. So you can't have too much of that. And so I think, there's a role for us from a leadership perspective. And I really, that's what my story and background is about, Jake, is about leadership and finding the right leadership roles in the right moment in time to be the most impactful. And I found that in education. I found it with this governor. Getting behind Governor Westmore was all about doing something different and being a part of a movement to make leaving no one behind the commitment of everybody in state government, which I think we're making a lot of progress in that regard. And I think that, I think corporate America needs to get on board and become more socially conscious and more socially responsible. And one of the reasons they're not doing it is probably because they don't have enough of us kind of at the table helping to educate and drive that agenda. So I don't think private sector is a bad thing per se. But I will say, to your point, Jake, that I love people and I want to be where I feel like I can connect with and support and drive change for people. And government is also, one of the biggest players in the space. You know that, Jake, in the roles that you've had. And so you and I both share a kindred spirit of trying to find the places and spaces where we can make big change and do it for people who often don't have a voice at the table. And so I follow my values, I follow what I believe in, and I also connect myself to great leaders. I think that's another kind of theme in my background is I've moved around, but I've moved based on like where my heart takes me. Where is the moment, right? Where can I be where it's something different, big opportunity, and that I can uniquely bring something to the table. So that's how I've tried to think about things. And listen, one day I hope to be on some of these corporate boards, getting these folks to make better investments, deeper investments in the community. So I'm not done yet, Jake.
And it's needed. It is so needed. If corporate America had the soul of a social worker, I think we'd all sleep a little bit easier at night. But let me ask, a lot of folks on here, and I'm loving the love in this chat. This is incredible. A lot of folks in here are going to enter the workforce at some point, are passionate about policy, understanding that policy is that big picture that drives so many things that affect so many. The door isn't as open to social workers, or as naturally open to social workers as it is other. We've got great professors, throughout Maryland who are pushing social workers to look at policy. What advice do you have for social work students who are like, this is the place I want to go?
So I think you're 100% right. And the way that I think you get into that work is you start early, Jake. When you're thinking about internship opportunities, when you're thinking about your own professional development as a young social work professional, associations like this, these are all great places to start getting your policy chops. Even if you're doing a clinical job and you're in a clinical program, social workers can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I think sometimes we think about our world, and especially when I was coming into the profession, as in tracks. I think that we need to be more integrated. And when we think about our careers and how we build out our careers, I love kind of client work. I love the one-on-one interactions with people. I just couldn't be a clinical social worker because I cry too much. I mean, I would be a nervous wreck. And so I needed to kind of find my place, but in a different way. And that's why what they call back then macro social work was appealing to me, because I could still have my heart in the work, but I could move that emotional intelligence to another place in my own kind of giving back and leadership. And so the way that social workers can get in the policy game early, as I said, is associations are good places to start that process. Internships, this, Jake, there's always lots of things to do in the General Assembly, whether that's like interning for your legislature, joining political campaigns on either side of the aisle is also an opportunity, this was new for me. But like, I was amazed that in my 50s, Jake, that was the first time I had been privy to these Democratic central parties at the community level. Had no idea they exist, Jake.
You served as chief of staff for the governor's campaign.
I did. And that was the first time that I understood how our country's political system worked on both sides. And so I'm always learning about the system, the structure. I tell people all the time, Jake, what fascinates me about being the Secretary of Appointments is within, in lots of communities, Jake, you hear people say the system did this, the system did this, they did this, they did that. Well, I had this curiosity about who is the they? Who are the system engineers? And I'm learning about how systemic structures are put in place, all the way from these local party clubs, all the way up to what's happening in agencies, what's happening in our state elections board, what's happening in the national political scene. I'm continuing to learn how the system works, and we need social workers everywhere. We need them at every level of the system, because like I said, we are the superheroes of good and fairness and equity. And we need us to be in all the places and spaces to help bring out the best of people and programs and our democracy.
I had to scribble down superheroes of good. I'm getting that on a t-shirt or something. That is such a great encapsulation of, I think, why so many folks here are drawn to social work, and why we have this passion in it. I have to ask, what has surprised you the most throughout your journey? Was there a moment that made you, in a good or bad way, that made you stop and really just caught you by surprise, or a moment that has just stuck out to you as, this is a memorable thing that I'm just never going to forget?
So the thing that I'm going to probably talk to my grandkids about, so I've been blessed that every single role I've had those aha moments, Jake, where I was in the right moment and the right time to do something great. Which is what my purpose is, what I pray for, what I ask the universe to bring me, put me in the right place at the right time to bring about change, right? And so, of course, the biggest moment right now is, helping and being a part of the team to bring us the first Black governor in the state of Maryland, and only the third Black governor elected in this country's history, Jake.
Historic.
And that was crazy. And I learned so much in that process about politics. I have been, as you said, a practitioner. I have been an executive leader, but I've never been a political insider. And that has changed. That's the journey I'm on with our governor. And to watch him do what he is called to do, which is end child poverty and to leave no one behind and to close the wealth gap, to hear a Black governor standing in front of the General Assembly talking about Black wealth, I almost fell out of my seat. I was like, did he just say that? Right. So just the courage and the commitment to his agenda, and being very unapologetic about that. And to being in an administration where love matters, love for people, all people matters. That's been really whoa, how is that what we doing? So that's been kind of an aha moment for me. And I'm just very proud of who the governor is and who our lieutenant governor is, and what we're all in this moment where we can contribute to creating state policies that are, the foundation of it is about diversity. The foundation of it is about caring for our neighbors. The foundation is about mental health and emotional well-being. The foundation is about economic security. All the things that all of us care about, it's right here. We're in Maryland with this team. We are all about it. And I just hope that everyone takes advantage of this moment and that it outlives our administration.
I've said to friends, this feels, as a social worker, this feels like the first administration in my lifetime that actually feels grounded in those principles of social work, in those principles of caring for others in the greater good. I mean, to have a governor talk about poverty as it is something to solve and not just a fact of life is such a wonderful thing. And it is sad that it is distinctive. And it's got to be amazing to be at the forefront of that. I wanted to ask, you're in a position where people don't just talk to you, they talk about you. We've been there. I was talking to a friend about you a little while ago, and she said something that really stuck with me. She said, Secretary Edwards isn't out there talking about her MSW every day, but I feel like it is always at the core of what's driving her. And I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was a wonderful sentiment. I was hoping you could share a little bit about that, because I think that's very accurate.
Yeah. So first of all, I think you started this conversation with what a lot of people don't know about me, Jake, is I'm I'm modest. I come from a modest family, and I'm a kind of head down kind of person, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm always in awe of like my own journey, and I'm constantly reflecting on that. But what I do try to do, and what I tell everyone, is judge me by my work. And, and my reputation, and, as the governor would say, I have receipts about who I am and what I care about, right? And so, no, I don't necessarily kind of say it, but I live it. I live it personally, and I live it professionally, being a social worker. It is, when they give me those last words on my final days, somebody better say, we want to praise God for a good social worker, right? So it does mean a lot to me, and I'm very proud of the profession. And what I hope is that everything that I'm doing kind of inspires other social workers to seek out opportunities to lead and to support people in big ways. A word that I wasn't really comfortable with, Jake, is power. That
Mm,
like
mm,
had,
yes.
it has had for me a negative connotation, and I've had to grow into the word power being a good thing, right? And a thing that we all should have, not just agency. The word I used to love was, I want to have agency. That felt humble, that felt empowering. No, the new word that we all should be rallying around is, we want power. That's a good thing. And
Yes.
I think social workers need to feel empowered, and social workers need to be in power. And so I don't talk about it, but I am trying to live it. And I would say to people, if you're watching the revolution, it is happening.
That's fantastic. I want to be conscious of time, and I feel like I'm back in grad school. Dr. Kuntz, do you mind if we go a couple more minutes?
I'm totally okay with that. Full disclosure, Jake and I are both on the board of directors of the Maryland Student Legislature, and they're on next. So let's make a command decision to go another 5 minutes, and maybe we'll get kicked off the board, but that's okay. Thank you very
Fantastic.
much.
One of I think the soft skills that is so critical in policy, and something that your reputation very much precedes you, is you are a just incredible networker. And I think for social workers who aren't always great at putting ourselves out there, right? We're great at talking about our clients and who we care about, but lousy at talking about ourselves. It is a skill that we don't always have a grasp on. I'm wondering if you could give some of our students some tips on how to succeed on that critical skill.
Also, something that I'm learning to get more comfortable with. I am a good networker, but it takes effort for me. And what I would say to young professionals is, like, people like me and you and Jake and other, like, we show up and people be like, oh, they're so good at this. They're so great. They've got it all figured out. No, we don't. We have to work hard at bringing our best selves forward, and we're all on a journey. I would say that my networking has really been about, it's purpose driven. And what I would say to folks is, what we don't want is networking to be transactional, right? How many cards can I give out? How many people can I, it's transact, it doesn't have substance. And what I try to do is my relationships matter with people, and I don't network just to build
Yes.
a brand, which is what everybody talks about. I network to do the work and to feel myself and to give to others. And so what I would say to young professionals who are getting into this space, be intentional, be thoughtful. It's not, I need 10 mentors. I believe in quality over quantity, and quality relationships and meaningful relationships and intentionality in everything that I do. And then it just multiplies, not because you were running a race, but because you were being strategic and thoughtful. And so I don't know if I'm good at it. I would say I'm intentional about it. And if you look at my background, I kind of circle around the same people, the same kind of opportunities, the same work, and there's like a common thread. It's not me just kind of power grabbing or doing this work in a very transactional way. And so just be very thoughtful. And then the other thing, which Jake, you alluded to, is confidence. Every day I'm growing my confidence, and just having this conversation with you today, Jake, I'm feeling real good about myself here. But you got to be around people who help you see more in yourself than you might see. And so you need confidence builders that will help you get out there and make those relationships.
I love that. Being intentional and quality over quantity is 100% right. I want to close with just a couple quick rapid fire fun questions.
Okay, I love those.
Ask this question: what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Cookies and cream.
Fantastic answer. That is
All
mint
day.
is always the one that makes me shudder. So I want mint. I can brush my teeth. That's fine. What's your favorite book?
Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. It's one of my all-time favorites because it's a book that reminds me of the necessity for systemic change. It reminds me that racism is a real part of our country's history, and particularly in the criminal justice space, there's still a very racially motivated undertone, which we are seeing now, even in our current debate around what to do about criminal justice in our own state of Maryland right now. But Just Mercy, like, I can read that book over and over again because it always reminds me of what's important and all of the work that's still yet to be done.
That's awesome. What about your favorite movie?
So, can I just say what I'm binging on right now is
Yes.
This Is Us, which I love. I cry on every episode. I am in love with Jack. And the reason I love This Is Us is because, first of all, it's long. It's 6 seasons with 18 episodes per season. So it's a lot of TV, but it's TV that fills my heart because it reminds me that we are all imperfect, right? And
yes,
our love is imperfect, and that is okay to embrace the imperfection of our humanity and our love, and it will be okay and journey. So I love that TV series, and I watch it like over and over again, and I'm so glad it's on Netflix.
Awesome. Last one. I cannot ask a Baltimore question. Favorite place to go out in Baltimore?
So this is a social work. I went to school at the University of Maryland School of Social Work, and I did the dual degree. And the place that, I don't know how many of you all know, but I came through Maryland with the Dick Cook era. Dick Cook is like an amazing, he was my mentor. You're talking about someone who saw me first and who helped me to develop my capacity as a social worker. Dick Cook. Dick Cook introduced me to this amazing Greek restaurant called Sammo's, and I love Sammo's food. And I go there every couple of weeks, and I've been going there since the 90s. It's like my favorite place. Sammo's just stopped taking checks, Jake. I could walk into Sammo's and write a check. Could you?
That's how you know it's good food.
They just moved away from checks, but it is an amazing family-owned Greek restaurant, and it's where Dick Cook mentored me and developed my capacity. So every time I'm in Sammo's, it reminds me of my roots in the profession.
Just a wonderful guy. I know we are out of time or over time. Secretary Edwards, thank you so much for taking some of your precious time to be here. I know everyone here really appreciated and enjoyed it. And thank you for your service to Maryland as our highest ranked social worker.
Thank you for your service, and anything for you anytime, Jake. Just give me a call. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a